Welcome to TribeTalk, the podcast where we explore the insights, tools, and conversations that support your mental, physical, and spiritual well-being.
We're your hosts, Mike Casey and Ann Hutyra. And each week, we're joined by members of the Modern Holistic Health coaching team to help you navigate your healing journey from a root cause perspective.
Whether we're sharing strategies, discussing real client wins, or diving into new areas of mind-body wellness, our goal is to empower you with clarity and direction.
So take a breath, settle in, and enjoy this episode of Tribe Talk.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Tribe Talk. I'm Ann alongside Mike. And if you were here with us last time for our first return episode to Tribe Talk, we had on Dr. V, and we spent a good amount of time talking about root cause medicine and talking about the work we do here at Modern Holistic Health. And if you heard that podcast, then you remember us talking about the three major root causes that we tend to see with our clients, and that is toxins, traumas, and thoughts.
Mhm.
And we spent the majority of that podcast talking about toxins and the root of toxins and how we address that and take the functional medicine approach in helping our clients get better. And we promised you that we would do a deeper dive into the traumas and the thoughts aspect of that. And so we are really excited to have Rosita and Karin joining us today for this episode of Tribe Talk. And we're going to dive into traumas and thoughts. And these two ladies are just incredible. I've had a chance to work with both of them for several years in a professional setting and with both of them on a personal level. And Rosita, I'd like to start with you. We've worked together, I think, since 2018, 2019, somewhere in there. And you've been in this industry for a long time. You're an expert in what you do. Talk a little bit about the skill set that you use when you're working with our clients here at MHH.
I love the gentle approaches that I'm trained in. Resonance repatterning is the primary tool system that I use in addressing what's keeping you down, what problem you're facing. And then other trainings I've had in addition to that, like the emotional freedom technique tapping, and then working with reflexes in the body system. You know, I have been on this quest for what can create positive, lasting change almost 30 years when my daughter fell, got a concussion, and quit talking. She was only 2.5. We ended up taking her to the first resonance repatterning practitioner here in Austin, and I saw how she used applied kinesiology, muscle checking to identify what was happening, what was limiting her recovery. And then she selected from a menu of healing methods exactly what would work for my daughter. So she muscle chested through an outline and came to, well, we've got to shine a certain colored light on this part of the cranial bone. This positive statement needs to be said because even at 2.5, she's carrying this negative belief that she identified through her data set. And I was like, what? Watching this happen. But as soon as she shined the light on that cranial spot and those positive words were said, the light came on in my daughter's eyes and her cute little voice started talking again.
Oh,
And
wow.
I said, I've got to learn that, whatever that thing you just did. And so resonance repatterning, it's like a printed book of life. It's held in several volumes, and they're all outlines of the human experience, positive things, negative things, and it includes the energetic anatomy of how we're made based on ancient principles and modern quantum physics. So tapping into the Chinese meridians, going through the chakra system of India, using psychological principles. I can reach into all these understandings of the anatomy of problems. What is physical? What is mental? What is emotional? What is spiritual? So, what is resonance repatterning? It's basically gently helping your body and mind find a better rhythm, not by force, not by thinking harder, but by changing the energetic rhythm or the energetic resonance. So, what is a pattern? It's what has happened that is a repeated experience of ours. So, how my body feels when I'm scared, that's a pattern. How I react when someone yells, that's a pattern. How I am when I am trying to act confidently, that's a pattern. So we can repattern it by tuning ourselves out of what may be a negative pattern that got put in place because of a past negative experience, our past traumas, or the thoughts we're carrying because of those root past experiences. So with resonance repatterning, it's super efficient. That's one of the great things I love about it. Gentle, efficient. What makes it efficient is I'm using applied kinesiology or muscle checking to identify that needle that's been hiding in the haystack, tripping you up. What is it that is blocking you from healing, from being your best self, from having the love you so long for? That book of life I mentioned, my resonance repatterning books, I use a muscle on my own hand to read your field. So I'm literally catching the signal your body sends when it goes into distress. So, for example, if we've got a problem we're working on and I need to identify the age of the root experience behind this problem, I'll start muscle checking. Is it from prenatal to 5? And then I push on this finger. Holds nice and strong. That's a yes response. If your root experience was at 11, it would have been, meh, nothing's there. But when your nervous system hears 6 to 11, it'll give me that on response. And then I muscle check down to the age. And then we discuss what you might know of as a negative experience there. So when we think about trauma on the many levels that we're experiencing the effects of it, how can we tune ourselves out of those patterns, out of those effects, without reliving the trauma and being disrupted and dysregulated from having seen or revisited the upsetting event? Resonance repatterning was designed to do this in such a gentle manner that we're going back and collecting unmet needs, highly charged feelings, and the negative beliefs we created because of that experience when we weren't helped or lovingly consoled afterwards, when we were alone in it. We collect those pieces and shift our resonance with them by applying a healing modality. We don't have to hear the whole story of the trauma. We need to get what was your unmet need, what did you feel, and what did you believe? That's like this 3-pronged hook that keeps you bound and bonded to that trauma experience and unable to let it go. You know, your brain is going, we got to remember this so we can avoid it at all costs. And it hooks in with those 3. But if we can loosen that naturally, your system wants to come back into order, wants to come back into safety. And it's like removing the static from the field so your system can right itself.
Yeah, it's all fascinating stuff. And yeah, such cool things that you can do to help people identify that. It was making me think how a lot of these traumas and emotions that are stuck and mental patterns are more subconscious, right? Not a lot of people are aware, and or you might even ask them certain questions. They're like, "Oh, yeah, I don't have a lot of traumas or this or that." And so I'm curious your guys' thoughts to expand on that. And obviously, Rosita, you were talking about some of the ways you help identify that with muscle testing and applied kinesiology and different things. But what other comments do you guys have related to people's not being aware of things and needing help, and even other ways that you guys find to help people identify those subconscious patterns or stuck emotions or things?
Karen, I would love to hear how you track.
So
we're like hunters.
Yeah, we are hunters. And it's so funny. I'm listening to you talk about this, Rosita, and I'm like, yes, 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 yes. Same thing. I just use different techniques. I just use different modalities. So how do we address the people who say, oh, I don't have any trauma. I'm good. Nothing's wrong. Unfortunately, Our whole world has trauma.
Mm.
How we interpret that is through our own lived experiences. So, what one person might experience as trauma, another person might experience as drama, as another person might experience as this is just the way my family was.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean anybody's wrong. It just means that if your life right now is not going the way you want it, or that you feel like you can't get things done, or you feel like you're stuck on a hamster wheel, or you just feel stuck somewhere, it might be because you have an old pattern or old habit that's running the show that is in your unconscious mind, in your unconscious self, that is preventing you from wanting to make that shift, wanting to make that change, or even the ability to get unstuck. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and totally like you were saying, I've seen some people have really horrible traumas that have happened to them, just really sad things. Other people have lesser things, but the way that they could interpret that, their response could be that it's a huge trauma based on what their life has been like and all that. And that could be okay, they didn't have the big things, but they had something else, but their response to it created such a trauma response, and then all the
Right.
downstream effects that happen with that, right? Again, you guys know more about that. I think me and Ann are dangerous enough to know some of this, being more biological and all that, but I know it can create all these downstream effects of walls we put up and storing things and protective measures that we're doing to protect ourselves, but end up hurting ourselves sometimes in the end. So yeah, I would love any of you to expand on that.
You know, one of the things that I really focus on is looking at people's life experience through their eyes
Mm,
instead of what I would deem as a trauma or a drama or even a concern. If someone thinks that something was wrong or that they experienced a traumatic event, there's this thing in our world called the big T's and the little T's. And the big T's are the big traumas. The little T's are the things that are what might look at as that was no big deal for me, but for you, it might be really a concern that happened to you
right.
when you were younger or even as an adult. So these things don't just happen to us when we're a child or a teen. We can have significant trauma that has gravely changed our trajectory of thought, our life in adulthood, and really rock our world. And
Mhm.
a lot of times we focus on wanting to go back to that old self before the big shift, the big rupture, the big trauma happened. And that's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually impossible because we are changed from whatever it is that happened. That same thing happens as a child when we don't have the cognitive dissonance, we don't have the cognitive awareness, we don't even have the conscious awareness to understand what's happening. So we can only take in as a child what we are capable of understanding, and then we make meaning out of that. And between the ages of 0, or actually even in utero, and 7, everything coming in is true.
Mhm.
It's just true, whether it is or not,
Mm,
because we don't have the awareness to understand that what we are experiencing is not okay or
Mhm.
not true, or that this is not how love should be received, or whatever it is that's happening.
I love that you mentioned the whole big T, little t thing, because I know when I'm working with my clients on a biological front and we're looking at their labs and talking about their diet, and then when I bring up trauma, because I feel and I think that they need to do some of that work, I think a lot of people look at it through that lens of the big T, little t, and they think, oh, well, I've never had, anything that falls under the big T category, like sexual assault or physical abuse or anything like that. And so they take it less serious, I think. When you can have what we would call a little t, like something like bullying or being called a certain name or not getting affection from your parents when you were a really young child, like these things that might seem small can be really big trauma to some people. And I
Right.
love that you share that because I often do get those people that say, well, I don't really think I need that. I don't think I need the trauma work. Or they say, oh, I've already done that. And I think I've had the conversation with you, Karin, that I think we all should always be doing trauma work, that it's not a one and done thing. It's something that as we age and as our perceptions of life change and we go through different experiences, we may have other things come up that we've just never looked at from a different perspective or never processed. I think some of the healthiest people, I think, probably do this work on a very regular basis throughout their life.
I agree.
Mhm.
And I want to address as well that sometimes people have pretty normal, whatever that means. That's
Yeah.
right. But people do have childhood experiences that are loving, that are kind,
Mhm.
that are supportive and encouraging, and they feel protected and loved and safe. But something can happen in school. Like it doesn't have to happen in the family. It can happen at school. It can happen with a friend. It can happen at a friend's house. They might witness something at a friend's home. And we make meaning out of everything that happens in our life. Every single thing that comes in, we have a thought about it, and then we have an emotion about it, then we create a meaning about it, and then we respond. And so it doesn't have to be even a little t. It can be just something that we saw or witnessed. And in that moment, we created a belief system around it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that belief system could happen at any time, but if it happens under the age of 18, when we're 50 and we're experiencing life and we have an event or something that triggers that memory, we now are responding to it from an 8-year-old standpoint or even a
Mhm.
15-year-old standpoint,
Mhm.
because that's when that belief was created. And so if it's something that is inhibiting your life because you, yeah, I'm just going to use the health model. We're overweight, we're not exercising, we just can't lose weight. We tell ourselves all the time, we can't lose weight, we can't lose weight, we can't lose weight, or we can't change our health. Where does that thought come from?
Mhm.
Where does that belief come from? And so diving into that can be challenging for people, but it
Mhm.
can also be really empowering because, as Rosita said, we don't dive into the big T, the little T's, or even the no T's. We can look at things from a 10,000-foot view with perceptual positions and really look at what's going on
Mhm.
and
You
find
know,
out who we are under all that. That's good
yeah.
and positive.
I would love if you would kind of explain that a little bit for the average person, because I will too also hear, and I'm sure you hear this too sometimes, Mike. My clients will say, well, I don't remember if I can't think of anything
Right.
that I might need to process or resolve. You mentioned perceptual positioning. Explain that to the person. How do they work through something they don't know is there, or they don't know where it came from?
Yeah, so perceptual positioning can and cannot do that. Perceptual positioning is when you take you and you look at the situation that you're wanting to address. And you're thinking of it through your own eyes. You're thinking of it from the way it makes you feel, what you see, what you hear, how you are experiencing that. And then you take a look at it through the eyes of either your mom or your dad or whoever else was involved with it. And what might they have been thinking, feeling, or experiencing when they had this interaction with you? And so we look at it through someone else's eyes, the person that we're maybe in conflict with, maybe in drama or trauma with. Even as a child, we can look at that from a different perspective. And then we take a 10,000-foot view and we look at it from both perspectives. What might we learn from looking at it from both perspectives now that we have identified what those are? And some people are like, well, I don't know what that other person was thinking. And I'm like, well, let's make it up. What do you think they might have been thinking? What might they have been thinking or considering when they were having this conversation with you, or when they were yelling at you, or when they were whatever it was? That opens up memories. That opens up thoughts. That opens up the possibility to have the unconscious start thinking, oh, I might be safe enough to reveal this. Because if the unconscious mind does not feel safe enough to reveal either to the client or with me or with Rosita, it might not. So rapport with me, rapport with Rosita is critical. And holding space for people, I believe that it is a skill so that people can feel safe. And I mean, I can just look at Rosita's face right now and I can see the love and oozing and care off of her right now. And so I think that all of that matters. But again, so to go back to like, if it's not perceptual positions, how do we get people to uncover the unconscious mind? It takes some time. It's not, this is not fast work. This is allowing that process to happen.
Yeah, and like you said, Anne, it makes me think. I think there's always layers, right? There's more, and even me, I haven't necessarily deep dove all my traumas and all that, but I have enough awareness of being in this industry, aware of things, and some inner seeking and some work on that. And if you would have asked me maybe in my early 20s about my growing up and traumas, I've been like, oh, I had a great, like, yeah, no big traumas. Like my family was awesome. I had a great growing up, nothing big. And now that I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, there were so many things that I can point to. I actually have so many traumas and so many different layers of things, and I still probably am not aware of all of them. But we all have more, and it's so interesting to think too that, Karin, you were talking about, not always, but sometimes these things happen as a young age, and then when we're triggered later, we're kind of brought back to that. It's fascinating to me. Sometimes we're working with these clients that are in their 70s or 80s, and they're still having that response from something when they were 8 years old. And it's fascinating how our bodies, our minds, our emotions, all that work, and how we could be holding on to that and it be negatively affecting us and creating patterns for that long. Like, crazy. So I'd love to hear more about what you guys have seen with some of these clients, and even any testimonials or examples you guys have of helping identify. And yeah.
I'll talk about a session I did this morning with someone, on this quest for what is the unconscious piece. One of the things that resonance repatterning provides is this huge data set of statements. So for this person whose problem issue coming in was, I can't receive love. I can give it like God, but I can't let it in. And so using the resonance repatterning process, I muscle check. We need to do this belief repatterning and go find the unconscious belief behind this. And so I literally go to that book and I have a list of 50 beliefs that I then muscle check through. I know all of them. She doesn't know them. And I'm muscle checking. It's something from 1 to 20 and I get a no. Something from 30 to 40, I get a no. 40 to 50, yes. And it's number 42, which was, I am powerful only when no one can help me. I am powerful only when no one can help me. And this we go to, so what's the earlier experience under this very limiting experience of not being helped, getting wired together with feeling powerful? We went to her 3-month-old aspect. Can we remember what it was like at 3 months? Most of us know, but I have a few clients who do have infant memories very clear. And the experience being unwanted. Her mother didn't want to have children. She was very colicky, crying, screaming. And, she felt like her mom wanted her dead. And so what does an infant do when they're not being helped? They call for help. That's what those cries for helps are. That's the first response of our nervous system, call for help. If that doesn't work, then we go into that fight, flight, freeze, fawn, those other things. So her trauma was at the very first response, calling for help. Let's take a quick biological picture. Her thyroid, here in the throat, is what is her biological, I call it mystery tour. Why am I having problems here? How can I resolve them with biology support, emotional support, and clearings? So we could name those words. I'm powerful only when no one's helping me. That's the old pattern. So by saying it and identifying it, it calls up all those pathways that organized around that negative belief created. So we want to bring a new rhythm, because with repatterning, we're not telling the body what to change. We're letting the body feel the old pattern, feel a new rhythm, a new pattern, and choose the one that feels safer and easier. The nervous system always prefers less effort, coherence. It's always going to go to that new rhythm. It wants more stability. So the old pattern loosens up on its own. So we went to the new pattern. I have a list in that outline of what new belief do we need to tune to so that the old one can loosen up, let go, and not get fired again when she's trying to receive love. And it was another power statement. I'm powerful even when I ask for help. She burst into tears when I read that from the list. It was such a contradiction to the other state of being. So staying in that I'm powerful when there's no one to help stops me from having connection, stops me from asking for help. And so then we muscle check later in the session. Okay, here's the old pattern. Here's the new pattern. How can we get that system nudged into shifting it without force? So then I muscle checked through a list of healing modalities, and we had to use song, because the modalities I can pull from come from color, light, sound, movement, breath, energetic contacts on the body, prayer. It can be all kinds of things, eye movements. But hers was actually sound, and I intuited the Beatles' Help Song. And so we played it, and she was having emotional discharges just hearing help. Can anybody help? From the chorus. And then I could literally watch her deliverance, her liberation, as she was singing along. And then by the time we got to the end of the song, I'm muscle checking, is this complete? Yes, this is complete. And she is lit up. And then her body was able to shift into the new pattern that I'm powerful when I ask for help. She was exhibiting power. And in that state, she could receive love. So that's an example of how resonance repatterning, with so much documentation, created this huge data set of what could be the unconscious belief. And by reading my client's field, I can direct us to this. What is it? Let's go find it. So in some ways, repatterning, it's not magic. It's not mind reading. I'm getting this signal from the person's body mind of a yes or a no. Does this number that I'm reading out, 1 to 10, my brain knows it's blah, 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 blah. And it can efficiently direct me right to what the client needs. So we can have breakthroughs in an hour, breakthroughs in an hour and a half session. And each session finishes with bringing that modality in to create the change. So I think Karin and I both, we spend some time of the session identifying what needs changing, and then we go into the action to create change right there.
I love it. It's so exciting. And yeah, you guys do such awesome work. And I'm always excited to hear different stories and how you guys do it. Both of you, Rosita, Karin, you have so many different modalities and things that you can pull from. I also get excited too, because I feel like we do have kind of a dream team here, thinking about our holistic approach and being able to work with multiple of us at the same time. And that I don't have to be the expert at some of that stuff, because, I used to work with a different clinic and we did some amazing things. It was mostly biological, but then we started learning about some of these emotional and traumas. And so we started learning and we started being aware, but then we didn't always know what to do about it. And so it was really awesome when I came and joined your guys' team, and we have all of us together, and I can focus on my part and direct people to you guys to work on other things. And you guys have so many different tools in your tool belt to help people with this. And all of us help out together. And the amazing testimonies we have of us working as a team to help them find their blockages, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, to help them heal and help them get better. And so, yeah, it's super exciting.
Karin, talk about your work with grief.
Mm.
So grief and loss, we all have it. And it's not just from losing a human. We have grief and loss from a divorce or just losing partnership with a human being that we didn't want to or maybe need to. It can be from losing a job that we really loved or a career. It can be our health. People don't really identify that there is grief and loss around having our health be challenged. We can't do certain things anymore or now or yet again. But there's also, for many of my clients that I see with modern holistic health, there's not just the health grief loss issue. It is identity. Many of the clients are retired or retiring, or they have lost their spouse, or whatever it is. So there's compounded grief. And in our culture and in our society, we don't talk about that. We don't talk about much of this. I'm in California, and I don't know about some of the other states, but in California, we get 5 days of bereavement leave. You have 5 days to go grieve the loss of your immediate family member, and then you go right back to work. I can tell you from my own experience that that's not going to work. That does not work at all. So, the work that I do is one of the primary things that someone in grief and loss of any kind needs is witnessing, is just to be able to speak about it. Even if all they say is 2 words and then cry. Even if they say 50 million words and don't cry, or everything and anything in between. Being witnessed, being heard, having somebody who is holding space for you to allow you to speak about that grief, to speak about that loss, to share with is the most crucial, critical, important part of grief. Now, some people are very private and they may not want to do that. Eventually, they do. Once the comfort level with the practitioner is set, there's a little bit more feeling like I'll just speak for me, but I know this is you too, Rosita. But if somebody is really, really private and doesn't want to share, and that's their personality to start with, that's going to be a harder thing for them to dive into of just open sharing. So I'll just ask a couple of questions. What are some of the things that you miss most about what you lost? That can be all those same things that I just described. But also, what are you learning about yourself? What are you learning about yourself that you are learning how to overcome, that you are learning how to experience, that you're learning how to take care of because of that loss? So there's a whole process depending upon where a person is in their loss, what the loss was, and all of that and what they're grieving. And then I have some people that come to me and they're like, I already grieved. And I'm like, that's cool. But as we kind of get into things, into some of the session work, the next layer starts to come up because they are starting to resolve other old wounds. So in my grief work, what I've learned, which is fascinating, is old wounds come up when we lose something that's fabulous to us, whatever it is. And our old wounds come up, and those are all of our unresolved dramas. And we think we might have resolved them, or we've put them on a shelf, or we've buried them in our toes, but they come up, especially if it's somebody that we very much miss, or a job that we very much wish we didn't lose. Mm-hmm. I hope that makes sense. It's so multi-layered and so multifaceted, depending upon who it is, what the loss is, how close the loss was, how long ago it was. There's so many different factors. And again, it takes a moment. It takes a couple of sessions for me to even start to understand where this person is. Because a lot of times the person I'm talking to really doesn't even know where they are.
Mm.
Karen, I think a lot of our clients can really resonate with that. I mean, just like we all have trauma, I think we all have grief in one form of another, different kinds of grief from person to person. But what do you see? Because we're talking about the body, mind, spirit connection and unresolved grief or grief we think we've resolved, and that goes for any emotion, can manifest physically. What do you see are the most common physical things, like physical ailments or symptoms you see with someone who has a lot of grief that they just haven't addressed yet because they haven't been able to or don't know how to address that? Do you see patterns? Do you see the same kind of symptoms?
Yeah, I see a lot of tension, hypertension, the tightness, it just like holding everything together. And when we try to hold on to everything so tight because we think that if we let it out, we're never going to stop. We're not going to stop crying. We're not going to stop grieving, all of that. So people hold it in, or even if they think that they have dealt with it. And I'll use me as a perfect example. I am a grieving mom, and I have gone through layer upon layer upon layer of grieving and process, and I have my own help. Um, so I was like, oh yeah, I'm moving through this. I've got healthy distractions. I'm talking about it. I'm sharing about it. I'm writing about it. I'm doing all of it. No, I'm not. Oh no, you're not. And so how that manifests is pain in my shoulder. You guys all know that I've experienced this weird floaty vertigo weirdo thing. And I truly believe that I was not addressing a very specific part of my grief. And so I was told, you're going to sit down, you're going to deal with this, you're going to get quiet, and you're going to feel everything that you thought you had felt. You're going to really do that now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's starting to subside, it's starting to move through. And I was doing this work with people before I became a grieving mom. So I have a lot of years of experience before that, but I see this over and over and over again that people just stuff it in and think that that's how they've dealt with it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yep. Or they like put it on a shelf and they're like, I'll deal with that later. And there's a lot to be said about that, provided you take that back down off the shelf, put it in front of you, open it back up, and look at it. And if you don't know what to do when you're looking at it, call someone so that they can help you.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Because putting it back on the shelf is not going to be the answer. I can tell you that for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
curious any other specific examples you guys have or client stories, or I'm thinking about some of our clients that are really chronically sick. I'm thinking of some people with a lot of neurological disorders or other things. And whether you decide to share a specific story or just things you've seen in general, I would say just like it is on the biological side, it's usually a combination of things, right? Multiple things that are going on and layers you have to get through. But yeah, share some of that in light of, again, root cause to some of these more major chronic illnesses.
Do you want to go, Rosita?
Well, I'm just thinking of a couple where, the disruption is in the ability to hold with their hands, to use their hands well. That's where the neurological dysregulation is showing up in the arms. And they have histories of trying to reach something, a goal, save the family farm, whatever it is, trying very much, and something was out of reach. And the trauma was because what they needed was out of reach. So I've seen that in 3 cases with where the problem isn't so much in the legs, it's here in the arms and the hands. So I saw that link up.
One of the things, one of my clients, I just saw her yesterday, and she is also grieving. She's a grieving mom. She also is just in remission from cancer. She had for 5 years. Her death of the one she's grieving was over 15 years ago. Sometimes it can take time for symptoms to really manifest.
Mm-hmm.
And the messages that she sends to me after our sessions, and she just sent one today. I was going to post it for you guys. She said, I look so forward to the calls with Karin because I get the answers to my life's situations and the tools to implement them afterwards. Mm. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what it said. It was just a 2 sentence. But during the holidays this year, she was able to experience happiness that she described to me that she has not had since her loved one passed. And her whole family has noticed a significant change in her. Now, what this is doing for her mental health as well as her physical health is evident. She's happier, she's smiling, she's speaking up more. So that throat tightening of really feeling like we can't speak up because we have been pushed down, and because if we speak up, then someone might not like what we have to say, is pretty powerful. It's pretty awesome to see clients moving in a positive direction.
What about talking more about thinking about the thought patterns and all of that? I've always loved learning about just the power of positive thinking and all that. Our mind can be a powerful tool to either help us or hurt us and harm us, right? And how the mind is so powerful in controlling and sending signals. And a lot of these are subconscious patterns. Maybe you guys talk a little bit more about kind of some of these mental patterns you're seeing. And I know some things that you guys have shared about people actually having secondary gain to be sick. And you could even talk about that because I'm sure that's interesting talking to some people about it. And they're like, oh, what are you talking about? I don't want to be sick. But past the conscious into the subconscious, there might be certain reasons for that or certain things that they've always said. And I'm never going to get better. Well, you're manifesting some of what you're thinking and what you're saying. I would love you guys to share a little bit on that and maybe some examples of what you do to help people either identify and then walk through changing those patterns. Some of it you've already woven in, but anything else you would add and share?
So one of the things that I want to give anybody who's listening is a really powerful reframe of I am always sick or I'm always tired. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. I'm chronically exhausted. I'm chronically stressed. When we say those things, when we say I am or I'm, it's powerful because the mind is listening. And if we're saying it as an I am tired, the body goes, oh, you want some more of that? Okay, we're going to do more of that. But if we can have a reframe of that, and I want to just really make sure. So, Mike, you said something that the power of positivity. So, there's also toxic positivity of always being positive, even when things are not. Reframing thoughts to a more aligned, positive outcome is not toxic positivity. It is reframing so that the body, mind, spirit, and unconscious can think to itself and can say, oh, we want a different outcome. So instead of saying, I'm always sick and tired, or I'm sick and tired, or I'm always tired, my body knows how to heal, and I'm moving towards greater health every day. Now, is that true? My body knows how to heal. It's a true statement. I'm moving towards greater health every day. So if we are trying to do everything we can to move towards greater health, that is not toxic positivity. That's a true statement. And when we think about the statement of, I am always tired, I feel sick, if we think about that and I ask my clients, okay, how does that make you feel? Like when you say that statement, what emotions come up? They always say something negative. Oh, I feel depressed. I feel sad. I feel deflated. But when we talk about my body knows how to heal and I'm moving towards better health every day, what does that elicit? What emotion come up for you there? Hope, possibility. Some people say excitement. Those are elevated positive emotions, which start making our body vibrate at a different level. When we're having negative thoughts, negative statements, negative emotions, those vibrate at a lower energetic frequency, and the body responds to that. So, where we are vibrating and where our frequency is, we attract more of that. So, if we're vibrating low at a lower frequency, then we're going to get more lower frequency. Vibrating higher, we're going to get more of that. So, if the universe thinks that your body knows how to heal and your unconscious mind is the perfect blueprint for health, then having a different thought might start helping. I'm going to say one more thing about that. Many of us, I mean, we're all, I think, guilty of this. Our thought patterns have been with us for decades. The negative ones and the not so negative ones and our positive ones. When we're trying to reframe the negative ones, it takes a little bit more than 2 statements, saying it 2 times, to rewire that neural pathway and to start reframing the brain. So it takes some repetition and it takes time. We're not going to just do this by saying, my body knows how to heal and I'm moving towards greater health every day, twice, or for even a day, and everything is miraculously better. We have to actually start living that. Mm-hmm. And we can do that through repetition, and we can do that through hypnosis. Those are the 2 ways to start changing the unconscious mind quickly and permanently.
That's good, though. I think it's just the hope that we can change. We can
change
neural pathways. And because so many people are stuck and just, I can't, but yes, we can. And
we can.
And you're talking about it might be hard. And I've kind of given the example to some clients and some people I've helped is like, you might have this super highway, if you will, a 10-lane highway that you've built, and it's a negative pathway or a bad, and we want to change it. And you got to go bushwhack through the weeds and stuff to create. What happens the first time you walk a path in the woods? Well, nothing really happens, right? And it's hard. And or what if you do it twice? Nothing really happens.
Stumble.
And you might stumble, yeah. But if you do that 100 times or 1,000 times, well, you get a little path started, and then you do it more, and then it turns into a dirt path, and then you pave a little sidewalk, and your 10-lane highway starts to dwindle down. And it's kind of a visual I've used to try to help people understand creating these. And it's hard, but yeah, repetition. And like you said, hypnosis, that's a whole nother category that we could talk about sometime. But it is powerful that we can change, we can create these new pathways. So
yeah, I'd like to add in that with these negative thoughts as our old pattern, when we've repatterned it or reframed it and we've given the new possibility form for our client, each time their body experiences the old negative thought or the old trigger without the stress response tied to it, that pattern weakens, and eventually the reactions don't arise, it passes quickly, or it never even fully forms because we're on that new neural pathway. There's a negative thoughts repatterning and resonance repatterning. And in terms of serious problems, we're usually resonating with one or more of these negative 8 primary forms. I just wanted to name them: excessive desire, greed, fear, worry, infatuation, anger, jealousy, or ego. So often we will go into a process like this in a session, and we'll identify the specific thoughts in those categories. So let's say if it was infatuation, what are the infatuated thoughts about the object or person you're infatuated with? And what we realize as we're going through that process is they have a quality that is mine that I've projected onto them. And I think by having them, I'll have that quality. But we have to re-own our own positive quality that we've attached to the infatuation person or object. So that's just like one example where we'll literally ask the client, so what are the thoughts you hear yourself thinking? And we'll, note them down. And then at the end of the session, remember, patterns change through exposure. So we'll create that new pattern, and then we'll go back at the end of the session and have them say it again. I'm infatuated with so-and-so's beauty. And they'll have no charge. So they got exposed to the old thing. We were able to separate it from the stress response. And we got to do a little challenge at the end of the session. Can you hold your resonance, your new pattern, when we visit the very thing that made you cry in the beginning of the session? And it's like, oh, yeah, we're seeing a nervous system that learned.
Yeah, I love it when I'm doing limiting belief releases with timeline work, which is going backwards on your timeline to figure out the root cause of when this limiting belief was created. Sometimes it's not even ours, sometimes it's inherited. But when we go through the process and at the end, I'm like, so how do you feel about that old belief now? And they're like, I don't remember what the belief was.
Literally
And I'm like,
pruned. You pruned that neural pathway.
right. And
Yes.
and they're serious. They do not remember what that limiting belief was. And then I go and test that even. And I'm like, okay, let's go back to a couple of incidents in your life where you have felt that before and tell me what happens instead. And then go forward into the future to an undetermined time in the future where if this had happened in the past, you would have that experience and you would have that belief. And what do you believe now? And it's blown out. That whole limiting belief is blown out. Now, can that come back? Yes, especially if we go right back into the same circumstances and we go right back into the same habits and patterns and not doing some of the homework that we have to do to continue to repetition.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty powerful. It's not pretty powerful. It's very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I got into this work because somebody did this with me. And I was like, oh, I need to learn how to do this, just like Rosita did.
Okay.
Like, oh,
Yes.
wow, this had a huge impact on my life. This has changed my life dramatically. And I was already doing unconscious mind work in a different format. And this just it all went together.
I think we could all agree we get so much better outcomes with our clients when they're doing all these facets of their
Mm-hmm.
healing. And that's really why Dr. V put this team together, was because she wanted us to be a one-stop shop where people could do their labs, do their supplements, talk about their diet, but also dig into their thought patterns and their belief systems and recover from their trauma. And I really do think we see the best results with our clients when we do all of it with them. And our clients, I think, are amazed when they get the healing from diseases and conditions they've dealt with sometimes for decades. It's very rewarding to see the turnaround that a lot of our clients get.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I'm encouraged all the time just hearing the stories about them working with you guys, Karin and Rosita. And feel free to comment on this, but a lot of times it's layers over time that creates change. And then sometimes honestly, it's blown my mind sometimes because I am a more biologically trained, but sometimes they'll have a session and all of a sudden all the pain is gone in their body. And I'm just like, whoa, because they release something emotionally, mentally, a trauma, something, and it's like things change in a moment or a session. It's like, whoa, that's cool. I don't know if you have any stories that come to mind when I say that, but I've heard that before from a few different people about a session and some major change happening in that, but then also the building over time. Does that trigger anything for you guys to?
Well, there's a client that Rosita and we both see. And after she did her initial breakthrough with me, she started losing weight. And that's not uncommon because we put weight on to protect ourselves. And she started losing weight and was very happy that she was doing that. And it wasn't like immediate, but it was consistent. And she lost, I think, like 10 or 15 pounds, which made a pretty big difference for her. And then she started going back into some of her old thought patterns and some of her own limiting ideas about who she was. And we never really finished our sessions for whatever reason. It wasn't anything she did or I did. It was just what happened. And she put some of the weight back on. And she's like, okay, I'm ready to do some more to finish this. Yeah. But the pain thing is big with clients. We hold emotions, and that energy of those emotions can attach to any place in our body that is injured, that is overused, that is a surgical site. It can just land anywhere. Shoulders are tight all the time. That's where the emotions are going to go. As we empty out, I did a couple sessions of emptying out last week with clients, and they were like, whoa. I have never had anybody allow me to express all these negative feelings, these statements of just, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm angry. It's like just keeps going. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
beautiful to see how many ways in terms of the anatomy of change. For example, the chakra system, they all have a negative pole, positive pole, and neutral pole. So the negative pole is down at the ankles. So with one client who was chronically injuring their ankle, old pain from old injuries in the ankle, when we addressed the heart chakra issue, the ankle resolved. So we didn't work on the ankle, but we worked on the heart issue. And then the polarity, just like kind of like this is an energy sitter like a battery. And if the negative pole isn't connected on the battery, we're not going to have a system that works. So restoration of the system included energetic flow through that negative pole in the ankles. And then that old chronic pain went away.
I feel like I've heard several stories about physical pain leaving, and then obviously emotional pain
Yes.
leaving, something that somebody's held on to, this deep pain, grief, whatever. And not that it always goes away right away, but there are instances where it's a significant change in one session. And so back to Anne, what you were saying, just our holistic approach. And I think in this Western world, we want to separate out everything, right? Our physical, our emotional, our mental, but ultimately everything is connected and everything flows to each other and one affects the other. We're able to get such amazing results because people are approaching things as a whole, holistically, and really going after all things. And we see amazing things when people do that. And so I think that's a big encouragement for people that are out there and they're searching for things. And we always like to say there's always answers to what's going on physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And we've got a great team that helps find those answers and then walk you through the right solutions to do that.
I think spiritually, I wanted to add our community is multi-faiths. So when we're working on mind, body, energy, mind, body, spirit, we respect what your spiritual practice is, or if you don't have one. Some people are like, well, I'm not spiritual. Can I have this kind of healing?
Mm.
Yes, yes. Or I'm Christian. Is this okay for me to do? Yes. So we're here loving everyone right where you are.
I just did a hypnosis session on one of our clients who is a Jehovah's Witness. And it took her almost a year to allow that to happen. And it was not something I brought up. This was something that she has talked to me about a couple of times. And I said, I can give you all the information about this, what we're going to do, and all of that. And she finally said, she sent me an email and said, I'm ready. Can you send me the script? And I'm like, absolutely. And we did it last week. And she's like, can I have the recording? I wanted to listen to it again. She was not sure if that was going to be against her belief system. But in working her and I together for a number of months, she trusted the process and she trusted me to honor her belief system. And that was really important for me as well.
Yeah, that's huge.
Because there's nothing that we do that is against anybody's beliefs, and we won't.
Except believing you're not worthy. We'll be against that belief.
Yes,
we're going to go
We
against
won't
that
have
one.
force. We'll just help you repattern that.
And believing you can't heal. That's a big one that we
Yes.
often uncover. We want to help shine a light on those beliefs you've got going on.
Yes,
So.
that's why I got my little sign back here. Yes, you can. That's my bit of positivity I try to give everybody.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, we've covered a lot of great topics, and this has been fun. This has been fun to just dive into this. And of course, we could talk about these topics for hours and hours and hours and hours. And we're going to have more time to do that and pick specific ones and really go into that more and different things in the future, which I'm excited to do. But this was great to just kind of expand talking about this root cause medicine and our holistic approach and what we do and our awesome team. And yeah, you guys are all awesome. And when people are working together with multiple of us, one person doesn't have to know everything and be able to do everything. But as a team, that's really the power of it, is in our team approach and multiple people's expertise together to help somebody get where they need to go. So I don't know if anybody else has anything burning on their heart right now, but definitely look forward to future podcasts and us diving into each of these topics or other things even more. All right. Well, thanks for being with us, everybody. And we look forward to sharing again with you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Tribe Talk. Each week, our coaching team is here to help you understand your health, uncover root causes, and take empowered steps toward transformation. Be sure to subscribe and join us for the next episode as we continue exploring tools and wisdom to support your healing journey.